Hi, besties. I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. I want to make this intro really quick, but I started university. I'm majoring in English language and literature, and I think my second major will be religion and the society, I think it is. So that's kind of been hectic and exciting all at the same time. But now it's October 1st, if you're wondering, and I obviously haven't had that much time to actually read a romance or a thriller or anything like that because I have been reading some books for some of my classes and doing all the things, getting used to the university environment. I do want to go over all the books that I've read this year, including some of the ones that I've read just for school. And I'm also kind of in the middle of a couple audiobooks that I'm finding really fun and interesting. I got a new tripod and a new mic. Let me know what you think of them. I don't know if the mic is like going to be distracting. I don't like the way that it sounds when it's on my shirt, so I kind of have to hold it the whole time. Let me know if it's better than my past videos. Yeah. These are just some of the books that I've read this year. I had a really good reading year, honestly. I feel like I only actually read books that I thought were going to be like 5 or 6 stars out of 5. So it's definitely worked out in my favor. There's 8 books right there. And then I also read the Mindfuck series. And then I am also listening to 2 audiobooks. And I DNF'd 1 book. So someone do the math on that. I'll put it on the screen because I wasn't paying attention to the numbers I just said. As I go through all the books that I read, I'm going to follow along in my Goodreads. We'll kind of go through the year together, starting in January. I'm kind of going to like see my rating, talk about the book, what I remember from it, and see if I actually still agree with the rating that I gave it back when I read it. I think it's going to be interesting going through like 10 months later to see if I actually still like the books. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I started this on January 1st, 2025. Started the year off with a bang, and it was a 6-star read. I still think it's a 6-star read. I have not changed my thoughts. If you don't know what this is about, you're following Justin and Emma. Both of them are bad luck charms with their own romance. Every time they date someone, they break up, and then that person happens to get engaged, but they haven't been able to find that one person for themselves. I'm pretty sure they meet on like a Reddit page or something. They go on a couple dates. They don't think it's going to be serious. She's a travel nurse. He's kind of like a single dad, but he's not actually a dad. He's a brother. So there's definitely some family issues on both halves. There's self-doubt and a lot of deeper things than just normal romance. When I first read this, I was a little picky about whether I wanted this to be my new favorite book or Happy Place by Emily Henry still. And the difference, I think, is Happy Place gave me that feeling of a little bit of self-discovery, but a little bit more of just like, it's okay to not know what I'm doing in my 20s. This more so is a perfect book to me just because it's written so well. Like, it's a perfect romance. There's a perfect amount of depth and humor and love and lust, adventure, all the things. I think it was just written really, really well. If you're wondering, I decided both can be my favorite book at the same time. I don't have to pick a number one favorite kid, but I just started the year off so well reading this. Like, you need to read it if you haven't already. I feel like everyone already has, but having that said, this is like the 3rd or 4th book, I think, in like a standalone series type of thing. So technically you can obviously read it by itself, but there are relationships and stuff mentioned in this book that aren't yet resolved in books made prior. So technically, when I do go back and read older Abby Jimenez books, I might have ruined the adventure for those books because I already know what happens in this book. But I don't really think that takes away from much because I think this is kind of unanimously everyone's favorite book. I really wanted to read it, so I got it out of the way. 6 out of 5 stars, and it hasn't changed. And I don't think it ever will. I love Justin. He's amazing. He is the definition of a golden retriever, and he reminds me so much of my own boyfriend. Next, I have You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry, or People We Meet on Vacation, depending on what copy you have. I remember I went into this a bit intimidated because this was kind of everyone's least favorite Emily Henry book, according to online. Now, at the time, Great Big Beautiful Life was not out yet. But for her romance books, at least, this one I think not many people loved. This one follows Poppy and Alex, who were best friends for many, many years. They fell off for whatever reason, and then now it's kind of their chance or Poppy's chance to kind of get that friendship back and see where it can go. I liked this more than I was anticipating. Poppy, if I'm remembering correctly, was kind of like a BuzzFeed journalist type of thing. And I think she mainly did travel. So she would kind of go on trips that are paid for and stuff, and then she would write about them. I think that is the most fun thing ever. I love watching those videos on YouTube in real life. I love reading about it in books. Like, I just think that's the coolest job to exist. So I loved that aspect of it. It was humorous. It was fun. Was it the most magical and best book ever written? No, but it's memorable in a lot of ways. I'm excited for the movie to come out. I think I rated this a 3.75, rounded up to a 4. And I think that's like the perfect rating, honestly. I am really easy to give like a 4 stars and above. Like, if I just had a good time, it's a 4 stars. So the fact that I put it down to 3.75 is like, I think the perfect rating, because it's not the most magical thing you'll ever read, but it's a good book. It's a good storyline. It was, to me, at least. I could definitely see why people don't like it. I feel like it's a bit more immature for a lot of the other books that Emily Henry has written. Like, I know my sister, who's older than me, tried reading it and she just couldn't get into it, but she did like beach read, I think. So I think the demographic is just slightly different, maybe a bit younger, maybe a bit more like modern, and I don't want to say hip because that's crazy, but hip. Next, I read the Mindfuck series. So I actually did read it book by book, and I put it on my Goodreads book by book. So overall, every single book was a 4 out of 5 stars, except for the third one, which was a 3 out of 5. And I'm not going to read all my reviews because honestly, they're long. But I read this whole series in like a week. I was in the middle of moving and it would keep me up at night. Like, it was so addictive. Was it the best writing ever? Absolutely not. It was very Wattpad, but is it still a 4 out of 5 series? Yeah. It is. I had so much fun. I honestly didn't like the way it ended. There were a lot of things where I was like, why are you doing that? But I've never read a thriller / murder mystery / whatever that was with not only a romance, but also low-key a smutty romance. Like, it was crazy. I would not consider that dark romance whatsoever. I think if you're interested in getting into dark romance, that's a very good, like, beginner, like very, very beginner little leeway into it. Basically, how much can I say without giving away the entire series? Basically, you're following Lana, who is a serial killer. I am a Lana apologist, but she's a serial killer, and the love interest happens to be the main FBI agent working on her case. There's so much on the line at all times. It is so in-depth. I don't know how those novellas are only 100 pages long, around that much. So much happens, and you can build so much connection to characters, even side characters. Like, everyone matters in the story. Also, there are obviously trigger warnings and everything. If you do really want to read it, but you don't want to read the sensitive topics, just skip over the italicized text. The overall main premise of the story is still kind of a trigger warning in itself, so I would definitely look that up if you are interested in reading it. If you're more so like, you don't want to read something like disgusting and like horrific, I think you'll be okay. There's definitely more horror movie gore, but I don't mind that. I think it's fun. Is that crazy? Anyway, let's just move on. So that was 4 out of 5. Would I ever reread this book? No. I think I'm very interested in reading something similar to it, because I did find a lot of interest in the whole murder mystery / thriller X romance. It was a good series, and I've actually seen a lot of very highly rated reviews for that series. Next, I accidentally started a hyperfixation. I read Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I gobbled this book up. This was a 5 out of 5 stars. It was my child for a little while. It kind of still is. Luke Brooks is my book boyfriend. Out of any book that I've ever read, I think he is my book boyfriend. He does remind me of my real life boyfriend as well. Basically, you're following Emmy, or Clementine, and Luke Brooks. She is a professional bull rider, and she gets injured, goes home back to the ranch, and Luke Brooks is her older brother's best friend. So he's working on the ranch. He's helping like the little kids learn how to ride, and she basically goes to him for her injury training, trying to get back on the bulls and the horses, whatever. This has started a massive cowboy romance obsession. I think I just read it at the perfect time, and once I finished it, it's a relatively short book. I always say to people, and I think I said this in my review, somehow Lila Sage writes in a way where I can read 60 pages and I'll literally be like, did anything happen in that 60 pages? And I don't even mean that in a bad way. I don't know how she can write something that keeps my attention for so long, but it's so realistic. Like when I picture this ranch and just the town in itself, it feels like I've been there. The small businesses, the people, the family, everything feels so realistic that I look back and I'm like, okay, I can't pinpoint exactly what just happened, but it just gives me vibes. I don't even know how to explain that better, but incredible writer. I just love this book and this series. I immediately read Swift and Saddled right after, which is about Emmy's other brother and like an interior decorator. Super cute. I didn't love this one as much. I liked Wes way more than I thought I was going to. Like from the beginning, I was a Luke Brooks girl, and then I was excited for Gus's book, who's the older brother, if you don't know, which is Luke Brooks' best friend. I was excited for his book because I knew it was going to be like an enemies to lover situation, and he's so protective and big and strong, whatever, all the things. So I was excited for that, and I just honestly slept on Wes a little bit. I think he's one of the best boyfriends slash brothers slash boys just in the series. Like he is so sweet and chivalrous. I can't even get over it. I didn't love Ada only because she's very city girl, tattoos all over. I think I liked nodding into the country. I just love the girly pops that are also from the small town. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars, and I think that still stands. Like, it's not my favorite book. Honestly, I feel like it could be like a 4.5 because this one in particular actually did make me like cry, happy and sad. I think just had the most emotions from this, which maybe that raises a higher rating. I don't know, but 4 out of 5. So we're going to stick with it. I think I want to say that I tried reading The Cruel Prince at this point, and I ended up DNFing it. I think I wanted to switch it up, but I still wanted a romance, and I went into The Cruel Prince thinking that it was more of a romance than it was. Apparently, it says that the series is a romance, but the first book has like actually no romance in it. So I got maybe like 60 or 70 pages in, and I honestly hard DNF'd it. I am not a fantasy girly as much as I want to be. I'm also not much of a YA reader. If I do read YA, it kind of needs to be like pretty particular, which we'll get to. But I ended up DNFing Cruel Prince and immediately donating it because I knew I was never going to pick it up again. It was on my TBR for years. Like that was probably one of the first books that I've ever thrifted. I was doing it a favor, giving it a chance, and I kind of figured that it wasn't going to work out. So it's gone now, but love the effort that I made. Next, I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Now, this is a YA that I loved. This is another 5 out of 5 stars. Like, such a good freaking reading year, honestly. You're following Liz. Basically, if you've ever seen the movie The Duff, it is pretty much word for word, name for name, the exact storyline. Liz is a very hopeless romantic. Her mom passed away, and her mom were very tied closely with rom-coms. So there's a lot of mention of rom-coms. As you can see on the cover, there's just so many like iconic romantic comedies shown. So cute. At the beginning of each chapter, there's like a quote from some type of romantic comedy. I did actually highlight and tab all of the pages with a rom-com on it because I want to watch all of them. Surprisingly, I haven't watched a lot of the super iconic ones, so I need to make that my mission. But anyway, Liz has a crush on this guy from her childhood, and her next door neighbor, Wes, is this like popular athlete, and she goes to Wes to get help with dating the guy that she has a crush on. But as her and Wes start hanging out more and building connections with each other, she doesn't really have to worry about the crush from her childhood anymore. You know what I mean? It is extremely and eerily similar to The Duff, but it is so good. I love that movie. I've seen it 1.5 million times. And this book, I feel like, is the closest thing to a comfort read I will ever get. I think I could reread this 5 times and never get sick of it. I've never reread a book before, and as much as I love Just for the Summer and Happy Place, this might be my next reread because it is so like freaking cute. You don't even understand. They're in high school and it's very, very high school focused. So if you don't like that, I wouldn't recommend it. But it's high school focused in the way that like a movie would be, like, or a TV show with high school characters, like all of those types of shows that are technically like PG-13, but they also kind of have like funny humor. Like you're still a teenager. It's obviously YA because there's no smut in it or anything, and it is high school based, but it doesn't feel immature at all. It's genuinely like I'm giving my own high school self a warm hug, and I loved this book. I don't know how I was in the biggest reading slump when I read this book. Like I could not pick it up. It took me probably 3 months to read, but every time I picked it up, I loved it. I had no complaints. As shocked as you are that it took me that long to read it because I knew I did not want to set it down. I know that I could have ended that book slump at any point just by setting the book down, giving myself a month, and then starting a new book. But I was like, no, I love this book. I know it's going to be 5 stars, so I'm not going to set it down. I'm just going to read it until I finish it. And it worked because once I set it down, I immediately rated it 5 stars, and then I immediately got right back into reading. Now, I was scared that I was going to get back into my reading slump, so I purposely chose The Housemaid by Frida McFadden because it's a thriller. I knew it was going to keep me on my toes and it was going to keep me interested. I rated The Housemaid 4 stars. I think if this were marketed as a woman's fiction and not just a thriller, I would have liked it so much more. But going into it, knowing that it was a thriller, I expected it to have this crazy plot twist, and I kind of already knew what was going to happen from the beginning. So that was a letdown. I will say Frida McFadden is an excellent writer when it comes to scaring you, making you creeped out, keeping you on your toes. But the first 100 pages of this book were so deathly long, and it was necessary to the plot. I can't really say anything without spoiling the entire book. The first 100 pages were so hard for me to get into. It was so repetitive, so annoying. I hated it. Not because I hated the writing, just because I hated just the characters and the plot. But I was like, no, everyone keeps speaking so highly of this book. It's becoming a movie. Honestly, I feel like 4 out of 5 stars was me being generous. I think I would realistically rate it like a 3.5, 3.75, rounded up to a 4, which I know sounds silly to backtrack and say that because it's pretty much the same thing. I don't want to speak ill of the book because it is a good book. Like, it's really good writing. I feel like it's a little long. I don't know if I'll read The Housemaid 2. It's not really on my TBR at the moment. I don't know if it should be. I feel like I could easily be talked into it because Frida McFadden's writing was really good, but there's also other books by her that I would be much more interested in reading. So I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on this. While I was reading those 2 books, I was listening to The Defining Decade by Meg J. I ended up DNFing this, not because there was anything wrong with it really. It was just kind of repetitive, and I think if you are going into your 20s or in your early 20s, it could be pretty helpful listening to how to be successful and things to push away versus things to keep to have a healthy and happy lifestyle while you're young. But the way that everything is worded, genuinely, if you listen to this when you're nearing the end of your 20s or already in your 30s or older, you will feel like the most unsuccessful, like disgusting human being. Like they genuinely kind of make things, maybe I was just taking it the wrong way, but everything is worded to be like, if you don't do this in your 20s, you will be unsuccessful, you will be unhappy, this. A doctor or a therapist of some sort took stories from her clients who were in their 20s or late 20s about not saving money or not going to school or not having the job they want or hanging around this friend group. She kind of helped them out of that rut. But some of the things that they were going through were like totally normal, I think. I didn't love it. I didn't finish it. So to be fair, it could be way better. There could have been a plot twist at the end that I was like totally missing. But I just ended up not listening to the rest because it didn't really interest me anymore. I think it was one of those things where when I was actually on my walks, I liked listening listening to it. But if I were to ever be outside of my walk, I'd be like, no, I don't care to listen to this. And obviously while I'm walking, I can't really annotate. And I know there were a few quotes that she said or a few things that she said that actually have stuck with me or that I remember liking, but I just didn't get a chance to actually write it down. So that's kind of a bummer. It's pretty interesting. I did see this pretty highly rated by a couple bookstagrammers, but I don't know if I agree. I think it was pushing a 2.5 to 3. That's just me though. I'm not the biggest fan of nonfiction either, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. Next, I read Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. I didn't love this one as much as I thought I was going to. I rated it a 5-star. I rated it a 5 stars, which I find kind of crazy. Looking back, I don't think it was a 5 stars. I think it was a 4 stars. Like, I think Wes's story was actually a bit more memorable to me than Gus and Teddy's. Like, the story itself is good. And once you're this deep into a series, you can't dislike it. Like, you're in that deep for a reason. You have some type of connection with the characters and the world around you. I'm not the biggest fan of enemies to lovers, especially when it's just more so like miscommunication, which this low-key was in a different way than the books from 2021 were. Still, nonetheless, a little bit of miscommunication there. I think there was a lot of depth. There was trauma and family issues and grief and all these things being brought up, and I loved it. I remember in my reviews that I posted on Bookstagram and on YouTube about the first couple books, I mentioned that I wish I had their backstories more because I feel like Lila really focused on the love and the lust portion of the books. This one, now that I'm thinking about it, is actually much less about the admittance of love to their own selves and a lot about what's going on in their personal lives and them being there for each other, which I think really benefited the series in general. So maybe that's why at the time I rated it 5 stars. I think I'm lowering this one to like a 4.5. Gus was great, very sweet and chivalrous as always. He's definitely like the most burly masculine man in the series that I can picture, and he was super sweet and an adorable single dad. But I just don't think like a single dad enemies to lovers is my personal favorite. I think it was really special being able to see Teddy and Gus throughout the entire series finally find that one person where they can channel all of their love and passion into, which I think was fun. And she is also a fashion lover. I graduated from fashion marketing. I just love a story that I can see myself in, you know? It was fun. I'm still a lookbooks girly, so sorry if there was a slight camera angle change. My camera almost died. Lastly, for physical books, I have The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I can't believe I waited this long to read it. Seriously, I rated it 5 stars, of course. Are we catching a theme? Do I just give 5 stars out like candy, or am I really freaking good at picking books for myself to read? Who knows? I finished Lost and Lassoed on the train to my hometown, and then on the way back, I was like, well, I need a book to read. So I grabbed this, and I was shocked at how fast I gobbled this up. I read it in just a couple days, and I understand the hype. I was really nervous that reading it now rather than back when it was popular a few years ago, I would have missed out. But no, she's lovely, she's stunning, and she's also being turned into a movie. This one was so good. If you don't know what this is about, you're following Hannah and Garrett. Garrett is like a raunchy hockey player, kinda. Hannah keeps to herself. I think she's a music major, and she basically starts tutoring him. It's very naily coded, like Nathan Scott and Haley James. This book is so good. I will say the smut scenes, like, be prepared. There's like this one scene, if you know, you know, wild to read about, if you will. Genuinely, when I say such good writing, I mean like I gobbled it up. I was reading faster than a page a minute. And I don't think I've ever read faster than a page a minute in so long. So this also started a new obsession because once I finished that, I did immediately start reading The Mistake. I just have yet to finish it because I started university. So, and then I don't know if you care about this, please let me know. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate book stuff and university, since obviously my whole life is university right now. For school, I read Beowulf, which I'll put on the screen. It's very much just like an old English poem, even though it's like 200 pages. Please explain. I don't know. It's basically a story about a hero who leaves his home, goes to another home, like a land, and murders all of like the demons and the monsters to protect the town, kind of like to rewrite his own story as being a hero. Obviously, there's like so much more depth to that, and we're talking about it in school. So I don't know how exciting that is for you guys to hear. I will say in that book, the main, like the first monster, his name is Grendel, and he is the sweetest. He's a monster and he's huge and he does kill people. But he's a victim to me and to all of my classmates. We love Grendel. Beowulf did kill him. Spoiler alert. And then Beowulf killed his mother. So seriously, who is the hero here? Because I don't think Beowulf is much of a hero himself. Next, we're reading King Lear by Shakespeare. So I think that will be a lot more exciting for me to talk about, not just a translated version of an Old English poem, but justice for Grendel, honestly. If you've ever read Beowulf, please let me know your thoughts. Last but not least, my current read that I am very intrigued in talking about is Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz. I'm just less than 50% of the way through. It's basically, I think it's a biography. It's some type of biography, memoir of her life in a religious cult. So apparently she was in a religious cult before and during her time shooting One Tree Hill, which I think is crazy. And the whole thing is about how obviously it was a cult, so that goes along with all the things that happens in a religious cult, but she also kept it to herself because not that she was embarrassed, but she knew that people wouldn't understand, like her coworkers and her co-stars. I'm not at the part yet, but in the description it basically says that like the main people who are in charge of the cult apparently kind of like talked her into marrying their son, and then they like just took so much of her money away, which is absurd. Like I said, I haven't gotten to that part yet, but that's in the description of it. The audiobook of it is so good. First of all, her voice is addictive. I want to listen to her narrate audiobooks all the time. It's genuinely like so relaxing, so clear and concise with so much drama. She just has so much emotion behind her voice, and it's a story of her own self. So that would make sense as to why there is so much emotion. So addicting to listen to. And also, I am at the part where she actually is like on set at One Tree Hill and she officially got the job and everything. She actually has the other actors and actresses from the show narrating themselves. So every time she has a conversation or speaks of a conversation that she had with Chad Michael Murray or James Lafferty, Chad Michael Murray and James Lafferty are narrating their own lines, which I think is so cool. I love hearing them. One Tree Hill is my favorite show, if you didn't know. So freaking cool to hear that, even though obviously the story itself is horrifying, and the fact that she was in a cult and no one knew is scary, and I'm happy that she got out. I won't keep yapping about books. I think it's been like an hour. Also got a new laptop to edit on, so fingers crossed that it works. I'm tired and I'm gonna go get a snack and probably make myself a matcha. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you when I see you, and I love ya.